Hey AJ, hey Chris, it's Dan, fellow gear collector and watch obsessive, as well as a Bellingham Podcast listener. And to all of those out there tuning in today, you're listening to the Bellingham Podcast.
Well said, and I am AJ Barce.
Hey, guess what? I'm Chris Powell.
And you are tuning into the Bellingham Podcast, episode 76, for the week of April 15, 2018. Hey, Chris! How you doing?
I'm thoroughly enjoying that new intro. Thank you very much, Dan and Cyprus, for providing that awesome introduction. Hey, we're bad. We're worldwide.
Yeah, very cool. So a little background on our listener. This is kind of a new thing that Dan was so gracious to do for us. Dan's a listener of the show. He has been for a while, and he reached out to me through Instagram because he's part of the Watch Fam.
Hi, Watch Fam.
Sup, Watch Fam. So, really cool thing. A little bit of a shout out and plug. So there is the show, The Two Broke Watch Snobs. It's run by two guys, Mike and Kaz. Mike's down in Seattle. Kaz is over in Florida, and they do a weekly show. Most of the time, it's NSF. Well,
not safe for work.
If you have the door shut, everything's safe for work. No, not safe for family.
There you go.
Is what I meant to say. There is some intriguing analogies,
flavorful language,
right?
Flavorful idioms.
But the episode, their episode 75, which is called "Talking Vintage Military Watches" with Dan C21CY, which is Dan's handle on Instagram. It's a really cool episode, and I would even say that it's pretty much family friendly. It's probably historically their only family-friendly episode, probably. But what's really cool is you hear from Dan, who's a watch enthusiast. He is serving in the British military. That's why he's stationed in Cyprus. And he's an avid adventurer. He loves climbing things. Dan, if you're ever in the Bellingham area, first pint's on us.
We got the first round, friend. Thanks very much.
Yeah, so it's really cool. You want to listen to his story, especially if you're a watch geek, because he's military service, and specifically in British military. He's part of the Imagery Intelligence community. And as an analyst of that community, he decided to reach out to a brand that you like, Bremont.
I'm a big fan of Bremont. I would love to be able to get one someday.
Yeah.
But that does take a little bit of frugal saving.
Yeah. So Bremont, they make some really skookum watches. Well, what's really cool about Bremont is they have I'll say a dedicated core within their company for military and special projects for watches.
Mil-spec.
Yeah, basically, kind of, yeah, a mil-spec'd out watch, but they're more commemorative and dedicated pieces. So, for instance, the F-14 Tomcat pilots for our U.S. Navy, there's a Bremont dedicated for them, and basically, the only way you can get it is be an active service member that was part of that division.
I wonder if there's a tech spec, like for technologists among us.
Yeah, or podcasters. There should
be
a
pod spec.
Yeah, pod spec.
Hey, Bremont, we dig you.
Anyway, I got a link in the show notes to the Two Broke Watch Snobs episode 75 with Dan's interview, and also if you are, because we do have several servicemen and women that listen to our show. Not that now that extends not just to U.S. military but global military. If you're part of a division that you feel that you would like to have a watch for your division of some sort, take a look at Bremont's website to pull a quote from their military watch side. Quote, working in the lines with Bremont's core principles, the Bremont military, which is what let's like hashtag Bremont military, and special projects division create exclusive bespoke watches for military personnel and also specialized community and private organizations and corporations.
Dig it.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's really cool. If you listen to Dan's interview, he talks about like he just sent an email willy-nilly to this company and they got back to him and the project was lit, which was cool. And he was looped in through the whole creative process and their designers talked to him and he gave input. Just really cool. A really cool story. And if you're into like military watches of all sorts, take a look at also Dan's Instagram. Like I said, that's Dan C21CY.
Awesome. Very cool. So, we've said hello to the Watch Fam and discussed some watches. What else should we talk about this episode 76?
Well, last episode we got a lot of good responses regarding our take on minimalism.
Yes.
And what's interesting is when you talk the word minimalism, you and I have kind of gone back and forth with it. It kind of has a little bit of I don't know. baggage and almost sometimes pompousness behind it. And that's not the case necessarily.
Very similar to the word hipster.
Yeah. And that's not the case. Like when you think about minimalism, it's more of like there's a state of mind. There's this concept of kind of being aware and finding purpose as opposed to just having stuff for the sake of stuff's sake.
Well, it's important to have the right mindset so that you can live a life focusing on the important things in life as opposed to things.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be owned by the things that you own.
Right. And especially here in the United States, like economy and politics aside, there's a lot of issues with people with debt, trying to get out of debt. And minimalism has been a way for some people to get their head above water with that regard, because maybe in their younger days, they were young, dumb, and had a credit card.
That was
had
me.
some fun. Yeah.
That was me.
So that story resonates with you?
Oh, absolutely. Because in my 20s, you get a job that pays a good amount of money than mowing lawns or picking berries or washing dishes in a restaurant.
Squim, Washington.
Yes, my hometown. Right. So anyway, but once you start making some cashola, all of these doors open for purchases. And I found myself backsliding down a really huge, muddy slope that got me into a pit of financial debt, and just taking a look around, and finally, sometimes you just don't want to have all those things surrounding you, and like we talked about last episode, the value of open space and the open air is really important to me personally, and maybe to some of you listening out there. So you just type in the word minimalism in the Google and see what you get. Most likely, you'll probably find some popular sites that can give you an intro if you're not familiar with this lifestyle.
Yeah, and so the aspect of minimalism that resonates with me is efficiency. Being able to see a space or to see utility in things, as opposed to just having my pops would always say, like, dust collectors or bric-a-brac, these things that tchotchkes, all these words for stuff that, oh yeah, I got it out of a cereal box. Doesn't look great. No, like, I like having things with meaning or have function. And along those lines, it's kind of hard to, because everybody has a different walk of life. So there is no one catch-all of, like, this is the minimalist way. And that's my view. Like, you have to adapt certain things. What works for one person in this track does not work for everybody, because you may have a different walk of life. You may be a mechanic, a master mechanic, and may have a tiny home, but you have like a 2,500 square foot shop because you're Jay Leno and you work on cars. There's a line of efficiency where you can remove a lot of things, but if it's something that you're passionate about, like watches, I'm a watch collector, but I find value in, one, the actual item of a watch, but two, I also find utility in it. It tells me time. And
I often view minimalism along with just having a few things that can do the job. And I'm a musician. I've played electric guitar for about going on 30 years now. And I played bass guitar for about maybe 25. And I have my musical heroes. I observe. I'm a gear hound. I see what they're playing. And then one musician in particular has always kind of just struck me as not being minimalist, but being very dedicated to what you have. And the bassist for the Police named Sting has played a Fender bass, the same bass for, I think, since the late 70s when they first got started. You'll see that bass on these stadium tours, and you'll see that bass in a lot of the live shows. That's the Billy Baru, for those of you that enjoy Caddyshack. That is the trusted weapon of choice to be able to do your job, perform your talent, enjoy your hobby. Some photographers have one camera that's their Billy Baru.
Yeah.
Ted Knight, Judge Smales, and Caddyshack had the putter that was the one that always made the putts for him. That was his main putter. And that was a special one, but we're getting off track. I found that, to have one bag, one computer, one phone. Yeah, we don't need multiple phones, but to have one watch, to have one watch that does the job is something that appeals to me because, one, I don't have to keep track or have the decision. It's not really decision fatigue, although that is a thing. What should I what should I wear today? What camera should I shoot with today? What bass should I play for this gig? Having the right tool for the job is one thing, but if you can find one that fits all of what you're trying to do, all the better.
Sure. And so so leading into that, like being able to recognize what you need, and what you do with what you need. Space becomes, like we said last episode, very premium, because now you can evaluate and go, this one thing that I believe the analogy was the one minor league trophy that I got at the Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes.
As cool as that is, there's a saying that my wife and I have is, yeah, that was really cool. I'm going to take a picture of it so I can remember it, and then I'm going to donate it or do what we need to do. Like, it's one of those things where for me, the memory of what that is more, I have more value in that than the tchotchke.
The physical object that is taking space on a shelf or in a box somewhere.
Same, and this could be sacrilege for some listeners. I'm also an advocate of ebooks and the Kindle. And I know, as my wife probably is going to listen to this episode, she's struggled that for many years, where we do have a selection of books. We still have physical, tangible books because they are severely out of print, and we're talking like 19 teens books that we have that have different value to us. But for instance, the fantasy novels from the 1980s that a lot of hardcore geeks would keep on a shelf, like some meat AV geeks would keep DVDs in shelves. Those have gone by the way of the dodo, because you can get them on Kindle. And as opposed to having bookshelf upon bookshelf of these fantasy fictions that once you read, really, do you reread them? Like, do you really reread J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit 82 times a year? No, not really. Wouldn't it be nicer to have that big Horkin book on something that is thinner than your phone and then call it up whenever you want? And then gather all that space, because believe it or not, bookshelves take up a lot of physical square footage because they have to. The second thing is they're also heavy. If you ever have to move, and we live in a town that quite frequently people move in, your friends hate you if you're a book collector. You laugh, but I'm right.
Laughing. I used to be one of those book collectors. I used to be one of those CD collectors, and I had like 500 some CDs. And look at my collection, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what friends do, and that's all part of the process of evolving as a human being. What I've found there's a little bit of it kind of goes in ebbs and flows. We've had the we've had the flow of technology into our lives, in which you can fit an entire bookshelf into one device. But now there's a movement with vinyl records as opposed to digital music, with physical books. There's a book called The Revenge of Analog by David Sachs that is rather an interesting take on how society is consuming more physical objects as things ebb from being immersed in the flow of technology, if you will.
But yet, in that same vein, though, we're seeing an influx. I can't remember who put out the study, but we're seeing a rise in the target demographic, the 25 to 36
let's go
demographic,
for it.
where there is a money for experiences versus things. And I think when it comes down to is, for instance, in my book analogy, because I have talked to a great many people, and books are a very hot debate when it comes to minimalism. It's like, how dare I get rid of my books? For me, I look at it as, okay, I love the story of The Hobbit. I think it's great, okay? But do I love it so much that it needs to take up square footage? Do I value the story, or do I value the physical thing? And for me, it's the story. And I don't see the value in the physical thing.
So now, earlier on, you mentioned that you have some books. Is it from the 19 teens?
Yes.
So these are old books.
These are old books that are not scanned by Guggenheim or available for Kindle downloads.
And so that's an important point, because as you are taking a look at your possessions, the question should be, if I eliminate this from my life, donate it, give it away, sell it, whatever have you, is there a way that I can get that back? Should I have, what do you call, let her go's remorse?
Yeah.
And so for those rare out of print books, CDs, DVDs, that physical media, that original vinyl of Miles Davis kind of blew from the early 60s or the 50s? I forget, folks. Give us a shout out at #BHAM Podcast if Miles Davis's kind of blue was from the 50s or 60s. I think it was 57. I could be wrong. But if you can buy it again from some place online or get it from your library, you have that avenue to be able to redo that. Why would you bother having it in your home if you want to keep on holding on to those rare items that would have some emotional connection or potential value for you?
Right. And so for me, there's a separation. There's also, I remember there was another study that was done during the recession where we saw a lot of people, the recession hit a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And there was an interesting bit that I heard on, it might have been NPR or APM, one of those public radio outlets, where there was a study that for people with low income or low socioeconomic status, it behooves people to hang on to things because the cost of getting it back
good point,
outweighs the fact that they already paid for it and they have it on hand. Because if you give it away, you've already lost the money initial, and if you need it back, then you have to pay twice for the same thing. So that's where we saw a lot of people hanging on to a lot of goods. The rise of storage barns, that type of thing. I mean, there was that whole Storage Wars show on TNT or whatever.
No, it's one of the top business ventures in America to own a storage facility.
Yeah. And because of this FOMO, of fear of missing out, right? But if you have that mindset that we started this bit with of, what is more valuable to you? Is it the thing or is it the physical thing, or is it what it represents? Because for me, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And my wife and I take pictures of countless things. Obviously, I'm a photographer, but beyond that, like personal things. Like there's this picture that my wife did when she was like in the 4th grade, or she made her sister do it because it was a homework assignment. I don't remember. Anyway, her 4th grade teacher's not going to care anymore. But, take a picture of that, because the actual physical piece of paper, not so much. But the story of her bonding with her sister to convince her to, do this a homework assignment, and, that's the memory is more important than the thing.
And along those lines, one of the things that I've done with our daughter, who ever since she was a little shrimp and made these little pictures and things, I've saved them, and I still have them. And I haven't gotten into this project because once I start a project, there's inertia, and boom, I knock it out. But to take a picture of all these, of all of the artwork and crafts from my daughter, get them in digital format, and then create a book, whether it's Apple Books or Costco or Shutterfly or name it in the modern thing. That's probably going to be like a future gift for my wife as our daughter grows older and takes flight in her own life for those memories. And what a great idea to capture those into digital format, back them up, and to be able to convert those into a physical format. It's the circle of life.
It is, but I mean, it's consolidation though. Like minimalism, one of the first steps is to consolidate, like you said, like being able to look at something and say, one watch to rule them all. Me as a watch collector, not going to happen. I have my watch case, but I don't have a vault. I'm not that kind of guy. But good on you for being able to see form, function, and efficiency. And that's the thing, is looking for efficiency tracks. That's what minimalism, like the gateway drug to this is. How can you streamline things so that you have more time, more space, more energy? And there is. I remember there's another, I think you told me about this article where there was a professional working higher echelon businesswoman. And for a year, she basically had like the same wardrobe. That way, I mean, basically it was like, I don't remember, a black top, black slacks, or something like that.
Yep.
And it was funny because it freed up the issue of, I need to find this to match this or whatever. But the other thing that went on in that article, I remember, you don't have this fear of, is this going to look good? Or because it's like a uniform type of a thing. It's all black, for instance.
Yep.
And the other thing that she was worried about is, maybe everybody's going to notice that I wear the same thing. They didn't.
Nope, because everyone's so self-absorbed in their own life. They never pause to realize, you've worn that same blouse and pantsuit combination for 5 days in a row. Yeah. This is very similar to an online movement called Project 333, where you have you wear 33 items of clothes for 3 months, I believe. And I may have that wrong, but anyway, Google Project 333. It's a way to pare down your wardrobe to the bare essentials, no pun intended, as you approach your wardrobe uniform. And, when you talk about wardrobe uniforms, the top two that have really stuck to a certain type of same outfit was former President Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook with their uniforms. Navy suit, white shirt, tie, and shoes, and then your hoodie and a gray T-shirt. You don't have to think about it in the morning when you get up. It's like, boom, there it is. I haven't gotten to the navy blue suit nor the gray T-shirt and hoodie, but I've gotten there where it's kind of like blue jeans, black T-shirt, and something over the top for my wardrobe, just because I know in the morning and my work, I'm blessed to be a technologist in which you're not paying me for my wardrobe acumen, you're paying me for my brain. And whether or not I arrive in jeans and a T-shirt or I arrive in a bespoke Armani suit, you're wanting my knowledge, and so I'm lucky to be that. So I don't have to worry about that in the morning.
Now, I know that some people like express themselves through fashion, and I totally respect that too. Like, that's your thing. Like, I know my wife loves shoes. You know, I'm not that type of thing. But for me, a watch. Like, I like having certain watches for certain things.
Absolutely.
You know? So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And along those same lines, there is something for everyone, and that is you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Low power.
Community radio here in the heart of the city of subdued excitement. On that note, I'd like to segue to the square meter challenge.
Yes.
So I was YouTube surfing like any good technologist with a baby, and you run out of cartoons to watch. And of all people, IKEA has this little short vignette series called the Square Meter, METRE for us Americans, or as everybody else spells it abroad. And what this is of course, it's plugging IKEA and all of their names of products that I can never remember, like the Bjork and the Mjörsnefashnikata.
Well, I'm sure those in Sweden often view Tacoma and
Rainier.
Puyallup and like, what are these words?
Right. So what's interesting about the Square Meter Challenge is IKEA does a sketch of what if. It's a what if. And they play out a real life situation. Let's say you're a family of 4 with 2 little ones. What would it take in reality to live in a 50 square meter place, a house? Not one of these tiny homes, like, because here in America, we have a very distorted view on space. We like things big. Our roads are huge.
Hoorah.
Our McMansions are ginormous.
Preach.
But that's not the case everywhere. If you go to Japan or if you go to Europe, a townhouse is what we would call probably an apartment over here. You know, and it's just interesting. So IKEA is bringing this concept across the pond to us, where yes, they're using their products, but what if you had 50 square meters and you were a family with 2 little ones? What would life look like in reality? So they sketch it out, and of course they have products of what they're doing, and then they built a mock-up. So you actually see in this video what 50 square meters looks like. It's not just a drawing on a napkin. Like, it's reality. This is what it could look like. So anyway, take a look at it. I got a link in the show notes because they have some interesting things. Let's say you're a young couple and this is your first apartment. How might you be able to use in our town here in Bellingham? We have some pretty small apartments.
Yep.
Any student will tell you that. So how do you make the best with what you got? And it's just a really cool short series. And looking past their branding, you know, they have some really cool ideas, like telescoping closets as opposed to horizontal closets that were
depth as opposed to width.
Yeah, depth closets versus width closets. And anyway, it's just a really cool take. Speaking of rooms, Chris, I believe you had a slight remodel when you got back from a solo trip.
Yeah, no, we're blessed to have a home that has 3 bedrooms, and so one of them has been used as a guest room for quite some time. And it's always nice to be able to have sacred space. So daughter's got her bedroom, we've got our bedroom, family room, kitchen, et cetera, but I get a little bit of an eye roll every time someone uses the word man cave, but there's an opportunity to, being an introvert and being a thinker and being a futurist and being a technologist, you got to have a place to be able to think and do and nerd out and just have a little bit of quiet time. And so we had this room, and so my wonderful wife thought, do what you want to this room. We'll still keep the guest bed in there, but whatever you want to put in there, here's a little bit, we're lucky to have a tax return coming in. Here's a little bit of fundage. Let's outfit it. So I had that similar thought exercise as the square meter challenge. What would I do with a room if I could design it any way that I want? And that was fun because I, took a look at a lot of design blogs and room blogs, did a lot of Google image searching, and I happened to, got a little bit of paint. We had a little bit of a darker blue type paint.
Oh, it's not black?
No, because that just looks a little weird for a room.
Okay, well.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be like...
Add some color, yes!
It's a little bit of a dark indigo color, but anyway. I wanted minimalism. I chose to, we have some friends that were eliminating some furniture because they upgraded, but this extended love seat type chaise lounge and ottoman looks really nice, and it's total full-on white. So when you get dark blue backgrounds and a white chaise lounge, it looks pretty skookum to sit there and read and to think and to enjoy the sunlight that drifts in. Got a very simple desk that I was able to find on a website that we talk about a lot, having done some research. And I really don't have a lot of technology on there. I store my iPad Pro on there, but it's a pretty sparse desk. Got a little tiny plant just for having a little bit of life. But I got a little bit of a large fabric type rectangular lampshade with a LifeX bulb in there.
Cool.
So I can adjust mood lighting depending on my mood, if it's in the evening or in the afternoon or such. And that's been pretty cool. And, budget funds notwithstanding, it was wonderful to be able to kind of mentally move everything out of that room and going, how would I restock it? So perhaps if you have if you don't have the luxury of having a dedicated bedroom to renovate, or a family room or something like that, why don't you try what you currently have? Try the dining room. How would you, or the kitchen, what would you do if you wiped out all of the stuff on your kitchen counters? Mm-hmm. What are the essentials that you put in? Your daily drivers. That's my term. I love a daily driver, like my watch, like my wardrobe, like the only pair of shoes that I have. It's alliteration and it's function, which I really enjoy. So yeah, I had a really good chance to get a sacred space for thinking and being and having some quiet time.
I dig it.
Yeah. So AJ, I gotta testify. This has been a wonderful conversation because for the past 2 episodes in a row, with this one being the second, we talked about one of my favorite topics, minimalism.
Well, and that's, but Chris, here's the thing. So when we started the show and how it's progressed, and we've got listeners. I mean, it's up, Dan in Cyprus.
Hi, Sri Lanka.
Hi, Sri Lanka. We're still big in Sri Lanka.
Yes, we are.
But no, here's what's cool is that we are a society and culture show, and it's not just Bellingham. Bellingham has like a state of mind, and it's one of those things where it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like a lot of what we want to talk about, we talk about because we dig it, but hopefully others do. And if you don't, you can shoot us hopefully a not so angry tweet, or you can leave us a voicemail, kind of like Dan did.
Area code 201-731-8324. That's area code 201-731-TECH.
Yeah.
Leave us a voicemail, please.
And that way we can include you perhaps in a future show. But yeah, hopefully you like how the show is coming, because we're coming up on the 100th episode.
Oh yeah.
And this is stuff that pertains to Chris and I, but we hope that it just kind of incites thought. Okay, it's just something that it's beyond just gear lust. It's beyond just what's in our pocket, what's in our bag. It's just thinking about bigger, broader topics.
And it's devoid of advertising as well, which is nice every now and then, folks, because...
And we don't steal your data.
Yeah. KO. All right, let's wrap this thing up quick.
That wraps it up for this edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to podcast. If you're in the Bellingham area, remember you might tune into us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Hello, power.
Hello, power community radio here in the heart of the city by the Salish Sea. And on that note, minimally speaking, I am AJ Barsay.
And maximally speaking to the nth degree, I am Chris Powell. Thanks again for joining us on the Bellingham Podcast. I need far less caffeine for when we go on the mic.
Yeah, I know. Whatever, Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello.
Yeah. Hello. That was the Queen, though.
Oh.